Welcome into another WBOA Courtside. Excited to be joined by the one and only Ken Koester this week on the program as we talk the business side of officiating, not just on the court, but you got a lot of stuff to handle off the court and beyond the whistle. Ken's been a WIA basketball official for 37 years, several years at the high school level, college level, Division One football replay, and he's done it all. And of course, Referee Magazine and NASO, he has it all covered. So he is definitely the guy to talk to when it's coming to the business side because, yeah, you can handle your stuff on the court, but if you're not handling it off the court, trouble could happen, right, Ken? It could get a little cumbersome for yourself if you're not taking care of business off the court. When people think about officiating, Ken, what are some things that they need to focus on outside of just the rules and the play call? What does the business side of officiating mean to you when we bring up that word, the business side of officiating?
Yeah, I've seen so many horror stories of people that have ruined their careers off the court or off the field or off the pitch. There's a professionalization to this that just comes with putting on the stripes, and that means handling that stuff off the court. And that could be something as simple as social media, but it can be contracts and getting that stuff, availabilities, communication with partners. I've seen officials that are on the rocket to go up to the Division One or beyond, and they can't return a simple email or phone call to partners. You're going to get on the bad list pretty quickly when you do things like that. So it's all that stuff that comes with being an official. I joke around with my kids a lot, and I joke around with a lot of their friends that you can't text everyone everything. And I think that's what officiating can teach you. And we live in a technological world now that can help a lot. You still got to be able to do those things with communication. That's where the business side of this comes in so importantly.
Kind of big reason why you're a guest and really strong advocate of this is the passion that we all share for officiating. But to use your own line, it is an avocation for many of us. And so managing an officiating calendar can be a challenge with personal and work demands, multiple signers, different assigning systems. We've heard the question from the instructional chair's seat. What advice do you have for keeping commitments organized and avoiding conflicts when it comes to prioritizing and focusing on your officiating schedule?
Yeah, it's tough. There's so many different systems we need to know and keep your availability to date. I'll say this, though. I think it's fair for an official to not know what's going to go on in their life more than 9 months from now. And if assigners are going to assign 2 years in advance and you need to get off a game, that's on them. You shouldn't have to expect to know what you're going to do on a Tuesday in February in 2028. And so if we can get back to keeping it a little bit more respectable, but I would just encourage officials to look at their schedule unless they want to be a Y official. And I joke about that, but a Y official is you want to work any day that ends in Y. And if you want to do that, then do whatever you want with your schedule. But if you don't want that, and I miss it right now, I'm not working because I just don't have the ability, and I feel so bad when I have to tell someone no. It made sense for me where my kids are to do a clean break because I don't think I can do 1 game a week and then get the calls for 3 or 4 other days. The assigners would be respectful of that, but I think you got to know that. I always tried to take a week off in the season in late January because remember, I was coming off football and then going to basketball, and it was just a good way to be a refresher. And then I think you got to figure out what you want to do. All right, people that gave me a lot of good advice when I was younger, and it still applies today, and I don't think that enough people use it. But are you a high school official that works college? Or are you a college official that works high school? Because then your schedule and your availability needs to reflect that. You shouldn't be taking games if you're solely a college official until all your college schedule is full. You'll find dates. This isn't how it used to be 10, 15 years ago. Trust me, if you're open tomorrow night, as of right now, I think you're still going to find a game. So we know that's the new business. So we've just got to do that. But I understand how assigners also get frustrated. Anniversaries and Valentine's Day and things like that shouldn't sneak up on people. Lock your schedules. You're not available. You're not going to get in trouble with the assigners. I used to think, oh man, if I block a Friday, oh boy, they're not going to be happy with me. They'll understand. Life first, family first, your job first. No one's silly enough to do this 365, 24/7 like I am. So put your priorities in order, because otherwise this becomes really, really difficult to do.
Is there a correlation with blocking our schedule, like on the floor, errors of commission versus errors of omission?
Yeah, I mean, things are going to come up. Nobody knows what's going to happen with their job, and you're not going to feel good or get sick or injured. That's all understandable. I just think I see so many things where people send in and say, oh man, I forgot we were going away for Christmas. Maybe you didn't have your schedule finalized. Maybe things were up right until the last moment. I just think those are the things that send assigners down a path that label you as incorrect. By the same token, you can probably be way more valuable than ever. We're talking about the business side. Maybe you're not the best official ever, but I'm going to date myself here and correlate it to the Rolaids Relief Man Award. Associations maybe should give an award for an official who is always available to pinch in and help out in an emergency, because they have become the assigner's go-to person. And we have those within the group. So I just think that managing a schedule is probably more important than ever because of how many nights a week basketball is being played now and how in demand that we are. And you don't hear much about the shortage anymore, which we talk about in our office at NASO and referee a lot, but it's still as bad as it was. And there's still, on Tuesdays and Friday nights, I see what's happening and what's going on to get the game played. And we're getting them played and they're not missing games, but some officials are just stretched so thin. I feel awful for them at times.
Talking the business side of officiating with Ken Koester, is there a common mistake or a contract issue that officials are doing consistently that are going to hurt them for future assignments down the road that you're seeing?
From my discussions with some of the assigners, officials just hold on to contracts, and whether they're waiting to figure out whether they truly want to work that Thursday night or not returning, it's a click of a button to get it back. But then it's also, you got to remember that. I screwed up too. Hey, I'm not immune to this, so I understand it from the official side, but I would accept a contract and boom, get it done through our school and it was gone. And I never transferred that date into my calendar at work, or I never did the next step, or I never let my family know that, hey, I usually don't work on Wednesday nights, but I got a Wednesday night game this week. And then Tuesday night comes around and I get home and I'm like, I'm working again tomorrow. You're what? It's all those different steps that have to happen that I think we just owe it to those that are close to us, as well as to the assigners. You can do one step, but if you don't do the second and third, you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself.
So there are boundaries that we should put in place. You talked about the support system. Officials can't do this alone. And even for a lot of us, our significant others deserve omen's work for the support that they put and the nights that we're away. Managing availability can cause stress. It can cause burnout for officials. And let's operate in the world where contracts are assigned on a more seasonal basis, that 9 months out. Official needs to give back a date or recognizes made a mistake. What's the best way to handle that?
Ideally, you try to want to have a group of officials that you have that you can go to. As I got later in my career, or if I was starting to work some college Division III, we kind of always tried to have a fourth or fifth official in mind with our 3 officials that I worked with. And maybe we could get that person right away and plug them in, and then there'd be a comfort level. But you got to have some resources available. It just can't be, I don't know anyone, or I've sent out a blanket email and you're working a pretty big game. The other thing that the assigners have the ability to do, and I don't know that enough of them do it, but I certainly wouldn't have any problem they did. If they assign you to a particular game because it's a bigger game on their schedule, it's a more important game on their schedule, it has some visibility, it has some importance, and they ask you, listen, I'll give this to you, but if I do, I need you to hold that date, then you need to be locked into that game. And if something comes along, okay, maybe you get a Division I opportunity, okay, they might work with you. But if you're going to go work a JUCO game or NAIA game or something else, no, you agreed to that contract on that particular date. And I always used to use that with the signers. Listen, if you're going to give me 9 dates, you can't call all of them non-negotiables. You want to highlight 3 and say, I need you on these 3. The other 6 if something happens. But again, that's when they were assigning so far out versus the colleges. We have some conferences around here that are getting better and kind of waiting to make that easier. But we have to understand the official side, we have to understand the assigner side, and kind of work together on it.
The off-court responsibilities continue to grow, right? There's multiple online availability tools to get games, videos, meetings, association dues, this and that. It continues to grow, right? What
It
advice would
does.
you give to what advice do you give to a newer official or a veteran official on how to manage those all these different off the court responsibilities effectively, so you stay in the good grace of the assigners and the commissioners.
I worry about this a lot because I worry that sometimes the demands that we're putting on high school officials might be too much. And not just from WBOA's perspective, but state associations and otherwise. By the same token, I don't think anymore the game's gotten so fast, so intricate. The players are so talented. There's so much more that goes in to a high school basketball game than there maybe was 10, 15, 20 years ago. The game's changed a little with regards to scouting and analytics and all these other things. So I think it's expected that you just can't get all of your training from 6 meetings before a season. There's a lot you're going to have to do on your own. You're going to have to study the rules and get to know them. Does that mean in year 1 or year 2 or year 3, you need to be an expert? No, but you need to have a grasp of the major rules and the definitions so that you can go out there and officiate. So it's all that kind of stuff. Those other demands, I mean, they're still going to be there. There's going to be accountability. We've got kids playing sports all year. Trust me, I see it. I'm living it. And so are you, Lance. So you get this, but there needs to be that level of accountability. And there's 2 situations in my mind right now because I'm coaching 8th grade and because I'm watching my son at the JV level where I see him lose a game with 6 seconds to go because the official blatantly misapplies a backcourt front court rule on a throw-in, and they don't get the opportunity to go down and either tie the game or win it. And then we spend 4 hours a week with 8th grade girls, which I love my daughter to death and all of her classmates and teammates, but that's no picnic at times. And we teach this jump, stop, and step through, and then we show up on Saturday morning and it's called a travel because the official thinks it looks funny. Well, an 8th grade girl couldn't do that. Well, it's a legal move. So it's knowing all of those things to go out onto the court so that you're prepared. And I just don't think you can get that from just going to association meetings prior to the season, especially if you're newer. So there is going to be some level of self-study and doing things to get yourself better and watching games and asking questions. And I'm just amazed at the level of, you guys are working more, so you'd understand it. But when I was near the end of my career, I didn't have JV officials ever stick around and ask at a varsity game and come in at halftime and say, why'd you do that or why'd you do that? That should be happening so much more than it should without sounding like the old curmudgeon or veteran. That just has to happen. So those things, there's so much of video available. I can sit home on a Tuesday night and get home from Jackson's game or not have a game and watch 17 different games right now through Huddle or YouTube or streams. It's amazing. Back when I started many, many, many years ago, you had to ask that the school would send you a VHS tape. And that's dating yourself. But you don't need to do that anymore. You can find your games. Even the JV and freshman games, trust me. I'm watching that JV circuit, so you can find those games. They're there.
Ken, one of the things officials always want from assigners is to be viewed more favorably. Beyond their on-court performance, what factors most influence whether an official is favorably considered by assigners? And from their perspective, what makes an official, quote unquote, easy to work with?
I worked with a Big Ten ref that once told me this line, and it's absolutely true, but the best ability in officiating is availability. If you're open and available for that assigner, you're going to move up the chart. That's automatic. But if you're capable and you do the things that they expect and can help them do their jobs better, that's where you're going to move up the ladder. They're not going to get emails from athletic directors or administrative assistants saying they haven't turned in their paperwork or we can't get them paid. They haven't called the office when 2 days have gone by and they haven't been paid, demanding payment. They haven't made life miserable for the secretary with regards to anything else. There's something that went on in the game and they hear from you immediately, either via email, text, or phone call about what went on, so they're not surprised. So it's handling the stuff on the court that will never take a back seat, but then you can really elevate your career by doing these other things off the court that will jump you ahead of those others that just don't do it for whatever reason.
On that same line, for officials who want more or better games, right? But off-court behaviors matter more when they might not even realize it, right?
We're in an avocation, but continuing education matters. I mean, if you're doing some things to make yourself better by going to a camp or doing some additional study through some of these things that are available now, either through MIBT or Court Club or Crown Refs, there's a lot of that other stuff that's available. And if you're doing that, there's a way that you can promote it to assigners to let them know you're doing it, to be actively engaged within the association so that the association can promote you you're in a leadership role, or you want to get in a leadership role, or you want to be an instructor or a mentor. All of these things, I think, factor in because they start to hear your name more in a positive light, and then you get on their radar. And the fact is, if you can ref, they're going to find you and you're going to get your games.
Ken, you've taken a step back from basketball because of your family. What lessons can you share from taking a step back that can help others that are currently on the court and trying to get better? What has that perspective changed for you, especially as somebody like you that is so close to officiating, lives it 24/7, and now you're not wearing the stripes?
There's so many things now from sitting in a seat that I'm sitting in that I think later in my career I was okay because I had matured and gotten a little better and had a family and I understood. But man, I go back and look at some of the things I did earlier in my career and what a complete moron I was, and just some things that I wouldn't be proud of now. I sit on the bench as an 8th grade assistant coach, and I can remember just treating assistant coaches ruthlessly and things like that. So I see that now, but I will tell you this. It is interesting to get the fans' perspective and parents. Now, some of them, I'm not going to lie, they're just crazy, and I get it, and I support the officials, and I'm doing everything I can to go out and support officials, and it's the most challenging thing I've done at times because you don't want to alienate the fan base of your son's school and the other parents that he hangs around with, and your daughter's team and otherwise. But I want to support them because I know how hard the avocation is. But there are things that they pick up on that I never did. And we've tried to communicate some of those and we'll continue to in the instructional notes. But I'm constantly amazed at the parents that tell me none of them look like they're enjoying themselves. And they pick up on that way more than I do. And they're out there on a Tuesday or a Friday night and it just looks like they want to be anywhere else in the world but there. And kind of their performance reflects that. And I try to explain to them, listen, there are so many games. It may be that they don't want to be here, or they had something going at work that day, or they had something going on in their life. But there's just such a shortage that they feel like they can't get off the game. And so that could be true. But I think there's others just have that personality. And it's interesting to hear that perspective and have them pick up on it. They will notice effort way more than they will notice if you get a block charge call right. Because they're just going to be, did it benefit our team or did it benefit my son or daughter? But they do pick up on things that are pretty fair, and I have a hard time sometimes defending. So it's those kind of things I wish I'd have known earlier in my career because I treated some fan bases really poorly as well and picked people out of a crowd I had no business picking a fight with or tried to stare them down. And I did things that at least I'm smart enough now to realize that I shouldn't have done it or I'm embarrassed that I did it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't those fans out there that deserve to be punished and penalized when they act like an idiot. And that's still going on, trust me.
Talking the business of sports and business of officiating this week with Ken Koester here. Turning back games, it happens, right? It's necessary sometimes. What separates a professional turnback from one that damages trust going forward for an official from an assigner? Because sometimes these turnbacks, you hear horror stories where they go right to the school and say, I can't work till Tuesday night, go find someone yourself, which I hope doesn't happen, but I feel like I've heard that happen before, right? If you need to turn back a game, go to the assigner, right? Is that the first step?
You got to go to the assigner and you got to be able to come up with some options. Maybe you've exhausted all your options and you just don't know who's open. You got to be able to work with that assigner. I think what we see sometimes is there's injuries that occur, and that's understandable. And maybe you can't get through that game that you're assigned to, but there's a possibility you might be able to get through another game. Not that every game's not important, but there are other games where the pace of play is a lot less. And the assigners will know this. They know that this team's going to walk the dog and go slow and that ball's not going to go up and down the court. And they might be able to switch you with someone. So just the blanket, I can't go, really puts them in a bind with this shortage. So if you can get creative with that and solutions, that obviously will help and maybe make things a little less miserable, but things are going to come up. That's understandable. It's just the things that are coming up 2 days before an event that's on the calendar 365 days, one day every 365 days every year, that assigners lose a lot of patience with.
Let's transition to some things that are a little more related to the court that are still the business of officiating. Beyond seniority or simple rotation, what factors should determine who serves as the referee for the game? And how can crews approach the role in a way that becomes a strength rather than a point of tension or, quite honestly, I don't want the chance to write a report?
I'm passionate about this, and I just can't stand how we do it in Southeast Wisconsin. I wish every game was assigned with an R, a U1, and a U2, because I really do believe that someone should start at the U2 level and they should work their way up to the R. And we just throw it around and say, you get to throw the toss tonight and be the ref. And I never did that in my career. Maybe it was a pride thing, maybe an arrogant prick, I don't know. But I just didn't think that it was the right thing to do. Here's what I want the referee to be. I want the referee to be the person that is going to be the go-to person when the shit hits the fan, when things aren't going, when you have a fight, when you have a correctable error, when you have two volatile coaches in a situation that happens that you haven't seen all season. Who's going to figure it out and fix it? That's who the referee should be. That doesn't mean that they're the one with the most experience. It means they're the person that's going to handle those situations when the game doesn't go according to plan. And they're going to lead the crew that night. And I think if we did that, people would be able to elevate steps in their career more so than, well, I'm a varsity official. Well, you've been a varsity official for since you started in year 2, because we don't have enough damn officials. It's understanding that. And if somebody knew the amount of time I put into selecting the spots for that Concordia WBY tournament, it's silly. That's how my mind operates. So I just think that it's a little bit more than, hey, the rookie official, go do it. Now, I know officials out there that are terrible at throwing the jump ball, and that's fine. You can have someone do the jump ball. But you're still the crew chief that night. You're still the leader. You're representing them with the coaches. And if you've got 3 like-minded officials that are all tied together, and I know there's certain crews out there like that, and you want to rotate it, that's fine. But you watch the NBA assignments every day like I do at 8 a.m. get released. They ain't rotating the R's or the crew chiefs. Zach Zarba is never a U1 or a U2. Josh Tiven is never an R or a U1 or U2. Mark Davis is never not going to be the R's. It's those type of things that I think we need to do, because then officials are learning from those people they don't always get the opportunity to work with. How do you run a pregame? What do you do before the game? What are you saying at halftime? What are you saying after the game? All those things that go into being a crew chief that I just don't think we get enough time or attention to.
That being said, and I agree, but when is it appropriate for a more experienced official not to take the R for the night, not be the referee?
If you're comfortable with the officials that you're working with and you've worked with them several times, that could be it. I mean, I just don't want an official to say, well, this game isn't very good. Why don't you be the R tonight? Or something like that. If you've talked about it in advance, I don't like getting in the locker room and saying, you're the rookie. You're throwing it up tonight and you're the R. That just does a disservice to the game. Now, you can always say, well, listen, I'll step up if something happens. Okay, but why are you sending the guy that neither coach knows over to talk to them before the game or the table when they're just trying to get their feet wet? We want to take the rookies or the less experienced officials and just let them go out and call their area and get plays right. That's enough of a task. Take all the other stuff onto the veteran officials or those that have been around the block, because they can handle that and do that. That's where I also think, because the conferences don't take the time to assign it, it's not viewed that way. So the WIA and the conferences and everyone else, I wish they would start doing that. And I know we have so many changes and everything else that would happen, and it'd be so difficult. But I just think if that starts, because it really does lend yourself to, I'm here in my career, now I'm going to be here, and then I want to be here. I mean, I thought about it all the time. I want to be a crew chief at state and throw the jump ball. I want to be a crew chief on the Woodland Conference Championship game. Early in my career, I just wanted to be on the game. So I don't know if it's a reality in high school, but I'm certainly passionate about it, and I wish I saw it happen more often.
One of the things that maybe is lost in this area too is the amount of undue pressure that we're putting on somebody that's not ready for a moment when we give them that extra duty. One big thing that stuck in my playing career was be in a position to be successful. I don't know that we're putting everyone in the best position to succeed when we do that to somebody who maybe has a million other things going on in their mind about simply just, what's my primary tonight? And then you want to throw the referee duties on them. So that's something I think everyone should take a step back and really think, how do we put the crew in the best position? Because if you're working with that official, you want them ready to succeed, or you're going to have more problems that are unnecessary.
That's absolutely true. There's so many games where this doesn't matter, probably, because the game goes as it should, and there are no issues, and it plays itself out as the way you'd expect it to. So everyone walks off the court and goes, well, see, no problem. Well, but then there's going to be that game there is going to be a problem. thing is a perception. The table deals with basically one person. You might all go over and shake their hand, but they deal with one person, and you want to put the crew in a positive light. I said this in one of our instructional notes. If you're discussing as a crew, who should go to the coach that's being affected in the worst possible way? If you get together as a crew and make a ruling, and you're going to give technical fouls to team A, the person that should go to team A on the crew should be the best communicator, because that person can go over and deal with what's going to be a volatile situation. The next best communicator should go over there, and then the least of the communicators with the least experience should probably go to the table, as long as they have the rules knowledge to go in and explain what has happened. And that's in those situations where you have multiple technicals, or where is the ball going to come in? What's the point of interruption? All those things that have to happen. If Wisconsin ever went to a shot clock, then it really becomes important, because what's the shot clock going to be at and everything like that. So those things all matter. And it's not just you go talk to that coach, you go talk to that one. There's some strategy that should go into that. Pratt Frere talk about some of that with WBOA, but you see that in the NBA. They're not sending the least experienced official over to the coach that the technicals are going against, and there's free throws on the other end.
Ken, WBOA has a long-standing benefit of report review. You've been a big part in reviewing those, as well as a team of other people. What lessons have you learned holistically from those report reviews, and what can you share with officials so they can have a good report foundation before it even comes to you that you'd like to instill moving forward?
We've done such a good job with training our officials not to include opinions, that what I found here this year, and maybe some of last year, is now we're getting reports that don't have enough documented facts of what happened. The days of being able to just say that they acted in an unsporting manner and a technical foul was issued. If I'm an administrator, can't really do anything about that behavior because I have no idea what happened. So it's including those details. And there's games we've had this year in reports where I feel a lot of empathy for the officials, because there was fight situations or multiple technical fouls or all these things that happened throughout the game. And we've told the officials, bring something out there to write with and go to the table at a timeout and get some of this information down, because you're going to need it afterwards. Officials do a good job with it. They're trying. There's still a little too much opinion involved at times, but that's nature. We're trying to justify what we did, and it's a volatile situation. So that's why I love what we do as an association, because we can help take that emotion out of the report before it gets in the hands of either the commissioners or the WIA or those that are going to look at it. So we still need to be wary of it. I'm really worried what's going to happen next year, because we're not going to have to do these loss of coaching box reports. The BI just ruled on that at the Board of Control level, and I understand why, because they're not really using the information too proactively. So that's fine. But I still think we're going to have to figure out a way to get that information over to the conferences, because I don't think all the conferences always know sometimes that maybe this coach has had 5 technical fouls, and they're all about patterns of behavior and corrective action. And they need to know it so that they can address it. And how are we going to do that? So that's something the association is going to have to work with the conferences on and see what makes sense. We don't want to create extra work or jam their inbox. But I do think that it still needs to be communicated in some sort of fashion so that there's an awareness.
Ken, when you look at officiating as a long-term avocation, how does being intentional and professional off the court ultimately shape an official's opportunities, trust, and longevity on the court?
It's such a unique avocation. Everything that is involved with officiating is being held to a higher standard. And some will appreciate that and soak it in. Others buy in halfway and maybe not halfway. But you can't do what we do, even as an avocation, even 3 or 4 nights a week, and that's it. And then go out and blast officials on social media that you see working Saturday or Sunday. It just can't happen in this avocation. We have to protect our own. And sometimes we eat our own, and we are our own worst enemies. So it's examples like that we're always asked to take the high road. And that's not always fun. That's not always fun. You like to sometimes get the last word, or you want to win that argument, or you want to do something, or you want to go out and make a post about how poorly you were treated at school X. Can't do those things. And so it all has a tail and it's all involved, but it's also one of the most incredibly rewarding avocations that you guys have ever been involved with. You're still both doing it a lot. You get it. I think most of our association gets it. There's not a better feeling in the world than a packed gym and a block charge call and an ensuing timeout, and you're standing at the block going, they're all booing, and I nailed it. I absolutely just nailed that call. And you just soak that in and you go, man, this is awesome. And you don't get that feeling in a lot of other avocations like you can in officiating.
Ken Koester, the topic today is the business of officiating. You're the best person that WBOA could ask and talk on this topic. So the floor is yours. Close us out on the topic.
It is such a rewarding avocation, but it's one that is changing and evolving. High school sports has become big business. Club sports has become big business. I'm going to reference something that my boss said way earlier. 50 years of Referee Magazine this year, and I'm not sure what year he said it in, but I'll give Barry credit for it, and that's sports is life with the volume turned up. And we have to understand that. We have to be the ones that can help control the volume. And I didn't always do that in my career. Trust me, there were plenty of times where I incited the volume up, and that shouldn't have to happen. But if you do those things, if you do the things off the court, if you put yourself in a position, if you get involved with the association, I mean, I'm not particularly happy right now with our percentage of people that are viewing the plays we're putting through in RefQuest. Now, they got a lot going on in their life, and inboxes get jammed and everything else. But if you're engaged and you do things like that, it matters and people take note. And you're doing the single toughest job in the world. I truly believe that. To be an official in an avocation is a lot harder even than the pros who do it 24/7. It's a lot harder than the Division I officials you see on TV every night. It's a lot harder than what I do on Saturdays in the football season because the amount of training we get and have to do is second to none. This, you got to just find bits and pieces and try to fit it into a life that's become busier and busier and busier. But we cannot play without you. I am, to this day, what we've done with WBOA here and the people that have been involved in this group is the single most proud thing I've ever done in officiating. Even working at referee and NASO, we have created something that is unlike anything else in the state. I'm sometimes overly passionate about that, maybe too much, and maybe a little protective. We've done good things, and it's not just get that block charge right, but it is all these other things we've talked about tonight. That code of conduct and the conflict of interest and the other things that we're trying to do so that you're not putting yourself in a bad light with others who are watching and you can continue to advance in your career. It's as simple as that.
Well said. Could not have said it better. Ken, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy hearing your passion for the officiating game. It's something you live 24/7, as you say. And although we don't get to see you on the court this year, I'm glad to see that you're out there and stay very involved with basketball, supporting your children and supporting the game of basketball.
Keep doing what you're doing.
That is Ken Koester, our guest this week on WBOA Courtside. Learn more about the Wisconsin Basketball Officials Association at wisboa.net. If you missed any of our episodes, go back and catch them there. And of course, all our views expressed by our guests and our hosts are not those of the WBOA. For our executive producer, Josh Mansky and Justin Marion, I'm Lance Lusenegger. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy talking basketball with you in the business side of officiating this week with Ken Koester here on WBOA Courtside. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.